Hello and welcome to today's session, traders. Today we will be looking at the DAX, the German 40, on the MT5 platform over to the left-hand side, and the Tradovate order flow on the right-hand side. We've also got the depth of market. I'll just pull that over a little bit, so every time it opens, perhaps the template wasn't saved correctly, but takes up a bit too much room. So just move that over a little bit, and we'll be looking at the order flow once the market opens. But just for the moment, we're going to be looking at the layout of the pivot points to get a bit of an idea as to what we're looking at for today. Now, I'll just quickly examine the overall position of the DAX. Right now, we're teetering on all-time highs, so we're about maybe 10 points away from all-time highs right now. So that tells me that we may have, and that was a wick as well, so there's a very big chance that we'll either break through or reject off. We basically have to break through or reject off this all-time high level right now. So that'll be quite a deterministic kind of a situation. If we do break above, we could continue higher, and we may even get all the way up to the yearly R3 level. So massive positive movements on the DAX this week, last week, and the week before as well. So we had a bit of a bearish sort of period, and then the last, I guess, 3 weeks has been just phenomenal. Massive growth there within that range at least, and if it breaks on through, we'll be looking at some serious movement. Now there's about 1,200 points there in the last few weeks, so anybody that has been long off this mid Bollinger Band line would be sitting quite nicely, but right now we are basically right on that tip there for a potential double top. So we're just got to see what plays out today. I'm not sure on what will be happening today. We are on the upper band for the Bollinger Band on the daily. We're not outside of it, but we are right up there. Now, my instincts are telling me that this really should go down, but we've seen time and time again that even when the DAX is super high, it can just keep powering up. So just be wary that even if I do say that, look, I'm looking for short positions, there was a perfect sort of double top, kind of like a pincer position, pincer candles back here. See if I can go all the way back. This kind of setup, quite good. Just examining the daily candles. So yeah, not too much there, but basically if we can start to turn down today, I'd be really excited to get short and hopefully hold it. But I do think that coming into Christmas, often the DAX will just blindly rally, and that's what I've been talking about for some time, is that it's very hard to call the market when it just blindly goes up. So yesterday, we'll have a quick look at what happened yesterday. So we've broken up above the R3. So multiple times it looked like we could have gotten short. However, there was basically no rejection, and all rejections were kind of in between the levels. So there was a rejection here, quite good, but in the middle. Another rejection up here, but again in the middle. So it wasn't off any of the levels. So the R2 didn't have a reaction. This confluence here didn't necessarily have a reaction. We're open now, guys. So I'll just have a look at the live charts just to see what's going on. We'll look at the order flow. But as for trading, my ideal situation is probably more on the lines of looking for buys if the opportunity presents itself. At some point, the DAX is likely to have a very sharp drop, but at this point in time, I'm not 100% convinced that that is the case. So for example, I might look to buy if we got all the way down to this breakout short, we start seeing some rejection, perhaps even the pivot, and the close could even form as a potential buying point. But in terms of getting short, based off yesterday's trading, even if we came up and touched these levels up here, I'd be somewhat hesitant to get short simply because of the position we're in. If we break up a little bit higher, it's all-time highs, and there's probably a lot of stops sitting up here that the market wants to come in and kind of take out. So just being aware of that. So like, let's say it was this position, we're like sitting here and we're like, you know, are we going to go higher? Comes up, takes out all the stops that are quite tight, and then had a couple more weeks of kind of rallying or very steady movement, and then a massive drop. We haven't had that again on the next rally, but this could be it that comes up and takes it out. It doesn't really look too much like a double top either because of all of this activity here. It's kind of sitting around, you know, it's not making a clear double top. Like, while it is 2 points that are high, it just doesn't look like a setup that I'd really like to get short from here. But we'll just have to see what the market provides. It looks like a bit of buying here, a 9 and an 8, but it's going to really, I guess, struggle to figure out its direction today, just because of where it is right now. We've got some buying here too, I think, so that looks like buying that 12, and then perhaps an ask order to sell up here, pushing the market back lower, but no real decisive activity. And as I said, with the London opening in an hour's time, it really kind of changes the way the DAX opens and reacts and responds. So we often get a very slow start to the actual official open of the DAX, and then in an hour's time the UK will open, and that's when we'll start to see a bit more activity coming in. But this kind of next 2 weeks really throws the analysis a little bit because the same volume, the same players aren't in the market. And here we go, we're kind of potentially breaking long here. Hopefully we can kind of move up a bit higher and then get a decisive turning point where we can sell from. It's my ideal situation, with the concern that the DAX loves to just power up even when it seems irrational. So just waiting for an indication. Now, I don't want to necessarily get long here because we are at all-time highs. I think it will probably go up though. On the flip side of that, we're on the upper Bollinger Band, which often is met with some downward movement. You know, we might get all the way down to say the yearly R2 at some point. So I don't necessarily want to go long or short in this current climate. So it's quite difficult to read. And unless you get a really strong signal with multiple factors all pointing to the same direction, then I may not be looking to trade today. So just an FYI, unless we get into a really clear position, I don't want to take the risk. The other thing to note is the R1, the breakout long, and the R2 are quite spread out. So that tells me that there is a bit of, I guess, it's not uncertainty, but basically these levels are quite spread out. So you don't really know which one it's going to react off, and then that's when we're going to use the order flow to help take us in and make a bit more of a decisive evidence-based selection as to when we get short, if we do, because the market could potentially once again ignore all of these levels and continue higher like it did yesterday. One thing I do want to check out though is the US 30. So I'm just going to zoom out a little, I'll zoom back in. So this is yesterday's trading. Now the open, so 1630. The opening candle was a massive down day. So we had 150 points, hit the close gap and beyond. So for another 90 points, we kept going lower. But check this out. So off the R1 and breakout long, there's a bit of confluence there. We kind of moved up quite solidly for the first kind of 2 hours of trade, 2.5 hours even. And off this confluence here, so very similar thing happened the other day, but say from here, there's about 10 points of heat, so you'd need at least, I guess, a 13 or 14 point stop off even just the R1, and then the market reacted so well off that. So from that point down to, say, the pivot, we had about 180 points. So for, say, 15 points stop loss, 180 point target, that's a very good risk reward. For those of you who were using or trading the US 30 at that time, so 2 hours into their market, perhaps you might have had a pending order, but using these pivots can often be quite lucrative. But then you've got situations like the DAX where nothing was getting reacted to. So it was very much in the middle of the two levels. There was a reaction, but not at the actual level. So quite frustrating on the DAX, but excellent positioning on the US 30. Now on the UK, basically the same thing happened yesterday. The market just rallied for the most part of all the day. We hit a point where the market dropped back down to the R3 and then rejected back up off it, and now we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. We've pushed right down this morning, so quite different trading, and that could be partially because of the time zones with the Germany and the UK London Open being at different times. So quite slow trading once again. We'll probably be seeing this kind of activity for the next couple of weeks until the time zones match up again. So probably, unless we have a serious move into certain levels, I won't be trading today. I will be watching, but I probably won't make any executions unless there's really decisive information. That's it from me today, guys. Best of luck with your trading, and see how we go today.